You're tuning into the Careering with Cameron podcast, your safe place for asking all the dumb questions about finding a job.
Hey everyone, it's Kevin Cameron, and I am on Careering with Cameron. Today's episode 17 is for our graduate students and focusing on cover letters for graduate students. A little bit different than undergrad and also the internship. There are some parts of the process in terms of building that cover letter that are different. And so we're going to highlight that. This session will help not only with graduating with your degree, but also going forward in your career. So this should be something useful and helpful for quite some time. The goal here is to lay this out as almost a template. Certainly, we can help with resources on that as well, but wanted to make sure that you had the details that you need in order to get a really sharp cover letter out, because it will make a difference. So we're going to dig into that right now. So one of the key differences for the cover letter when we're working with graduate students and postdocs is that the cover letter switches from the general kind of hard work to demonstrating technical expertise, research impact, and also the ability to translate complex data into solutions. So for scientists, the cover letter isn't just an intro. It's a demonstration of your scientific communication skills. So for scientists, the cover letter isn't just an intro. It's a demonstration of your scientific communication skills. So for scientists, the cover letter is not just an introduction to your background. Really, it's a demonstration of your scientific communication skills. While the CV is not a publication, and keep in mind the CV and the resume are not the same thing. The CV would be focused on if you were to stay in academia, while the resume would be if you're going to industry. Either one is not essentially set up like it's a publication. The cover letter highlights the impact of the research. It's the difference between saying, I used PCR and I optimized PCR protocols to reduce processing by 30%. So the CV lists every publication. We don't want to list every publication with a cover letter, regardless of whether it's for a CV, which by the way would be for academia, or the resume, which would be more for industry. So we're not listing the publications. The cover letter highlights the impact of that research. So you want to talk about the impact that your publications have made in terms of the research in your cover letter. Okay. It's a difference between saying I used PCR and I optimized PCR protocols to reduce processing time by 30%. So the first part of this, the first piece of the cover letter is there's a dual path strategy here. For academia, you want to make sure you research what the department's current funding, specific faculty labs, and also the teaching needs that they have. For industry, you want to focus on the business science. So how their research helps a company meet regulatory goals or speed up a product pipeline. That's your targets. In terms of the skill mapping, you want to run through the same skill mapping that we did for undergrads, which is to set up that T account, or we're going to start to call that the talent account. So you're going to make a cross, and using your new talent account, you're going to have things that they are requiring and then skills that you have, and they should match. You should be able to match most of them. You may have to think pretty hard for some of them in terms of some exposure and or experience that you had in group projects or assignments, or even previous internship. But you want to make sure that you're lining those up so that when you're actually writing the cover letter, it flows much easier than having to kind of piece things together, right? You want to make sure that you also want to map your wet lab and or dry lab skills directly to the specific instrumentation or software that they're listing in the job description. This is huge. If they feel as though you're coming in and you already are familiar with the instrumentation or the software, it will give you an advantage. So make sure that you're using that advantage, okay? Make sure it's mapped. The next piece I want you to keep in mind while building out your cover letter is the paragraph, right? So different folks are going to read this cover letter differently based on their experience and the seat and or office that they're looking at it from. So you want to have some type of research hook, right? So you want to have that, you want to state the position and crucially, who your PI is, if it's relevant to that field. So you want to state the position and crucially, who your PI is, especially if it's relevant to that field. If it's not, I wouldn't worry about it all that much, but definitely worrying about it if it's relevant to their field. Mention a recent paper or patent from the hiring group / company to show high-level engagement. So you want to show that you're active and engaged in obviously the publications. So you want to make sure that you're using a recent paper or patent from the hiring company and or group to show high level engagement. You're following the information that they're preparing and working on putting out. That is showing them that you're not just applying because it's a job, you're applying because you're interested in them beyond just that you are interested in their geography or there are specific people there you would like to work with. Give them more than that, right? From a technical piece, you want to make sure that you're giving them some type of situation that's problem, action, result. If you're a golfer, it's par. So problem, action, result stories are what we're looking for in that cover letter. And specifically, they're highlighting a technical hurdle. So again, the problem, action, and result, highlighting a technical hurdle that you were able to overcome. It's very similar to the old question of tell us about a difficult time you had working with a large group. But your version really is much more technical in your cover letter, which is going to make it longer. Again, still not going to be more than one page. The next piece of this, and this is your third paragraph at this point, okay? The translation that's going to help you to bridge to the role. So for academia, you're going to discuss future research directions and potential for external funding. If you're moving to industry, you want to explain how your expertise and a specific method will help them achieve their goal and or specific projects. So you're not as worried on the industry side, obviously, with making sure that there's going to be funding. On the academia side, that is 100% something that you're going to need to help focus on and that you are not going to be shy about. For industry, it's something where you're helping them to achieve their goals and or specific projects. That's paragraph 3. Fourth paragraph is the close. So from a academia perspective, you can provide a research statement or portfolio. I would offer to do that. I would not just send it. So that might be something that would help them to understand your experience. It may also be something that will help them to understand how you like to work. In some ways, it's kind of like a writing sample for you, but really it focuses on your strategy, your ability to communicate. That scientific communication is key, and certainly sharing something to highlight all those common, we'll call them magnets from your talent chart, which would be software, tools that you've worked with, things that connect in terms of projects that you've worked on. So your experience, right? So we're using those in that component, that paragraph 4, to show that you're a good fit. You want to make sure that you're going to reiterate your enthusiasm for the specific mission. Make sure that you are sharing with them why you're interested, what you're interested in. Make sure that it's not something that's generic. Frankly, would you want to read a super generic, here is a job where you're going to come to work every day? I mean, it's kind of the same type of thing. You're looking for, what's the excitement? Why did you apply to this position? What got you excited enough that you said, I'm going to spend an hour on a cover letter to send it to them, and also another couple hours digging through contacts and people I know to find someone who can help me get an interview with this company. Also, this is the same situation for our undergrad friends, which is make sure that you are directing this information to a person, ideally the hiring manager. I made the same comment in the other podcast for episode 16. You're going on Amazon to purchase something, you're going to look at the amount of stars, your reviews. Your stars in terms of cover letters and connecting to a job are the amount of people that can refer you to that position. Sometimes it does make a difference depending on what level they are in the organization. Sometimes it doesn't. But ideally, you want more than one person to be able to share your information with them. A couple pitfalls that we want to avoid. This is something that happens a lot. So if you are not staying in academia, special attention to this component of our podcast. You are very used to talking in jargon, whether you realize it or not. You have to really clean up the jargon in terms of your cover letter. So go have a conversation with somebody who is working in a field that has nothing to do with what you're doing. If you're in research, I would find somebody who's maybe in like finance. Go have that conversation with them and make sure that they understand what you're talking about, because if they don't, there's too much jargon in there. Also, we are not hyphenating or essentially using terms that would only be used maybe in university setting, things like that. It's got to be understandable to people outside. We don't want them shaking their head yes in order to feel like they're part of the conversation when they have no idea what you're talking about. The whole jargon component, be careful of that. Make sure that your science communications are science-based in terms of people you're talking to, and that those same science communications are easily understood by somebody who is not in the sciences. Many times, if you're meeting somebody who you're not sure what they do or where they work, try to get the question to them before they ask you in terms of, well, what do you do? Which is a great icebreaker. That'll help you to understand if I get into the weeds in terms of research, are they going to be able to hang with me or not? And if your answer is that they are Kevin, who is a coach and connecting expert, probably not going to be able to hang out with you talking about what's happening in a lab someplace. Maybe from being around enough people, but chances are you should make this pretty simple for me to understand. So keep that in mind. The other piece that you should keep in mind is that PI piece could be very foreign to somebody you're talking to. So many times your initial interview is with somebody in HR. They are the experts of everything in that organization. They're probably not the experts they're probably not the experts of your specific science. So you need to make that something that they can understand and also be excited about in their conversation with you. The other piece of that is they're going to feel much more comfortable saying, this is somebody we should continue to talk to if they feel as though you're able to communicate with other parts of the organization easily and also remain very strong in your own scientific wheelhouse. Also, be careful of the passive voice. This is not a place where you can, quote unquote, be involved in, part of. You want to lead or pioneer. You want to be the person who really was driving a action. So please be careful. Many times, especially in this capacity where you're talking about a graduate program, we're not that comfortable saying that we led and not that comfortable saying that this was our thing to drive. But if everything that you talk about is that you're a part of or you're in the car, so to speak, it makes it very difficult to understand how strong your skills are. So reshape that terminology as you're having conversations with people so they understand you're strong. You can lead something. So the other piece of this would be in terms of how long can the cover letter be? It really should be 1 page. If you have amazing experience relating directly to job requirement and or the highlights of the job description, can you go beyond 1? Yes, as long as it's meaningful. Don't fall into the trap where you're writing and you can't edit things out. And so it's just a long letter. If it's meaningful and there are examples that you think will make a difference, okay. That does not mean the people going into industry can have a 2-page cover letter. No, 1 page, 2-page is a maybe for academia. This was something I wanted to put together for folks who are in a graduate program who are looking for either first internship or first job. I know that looking at how to find those types of roles, typically people who are in graduate programs have more opportunities already to network. I wanted to make sure that you had a more thorough understanding of the cover letter because I was getting questions both from undergrad and graduate students in terms of how similar are they. You've got 3 basic different kinds of cover letter that you can produce at this point in your career. One obviously would be your undergrad. That one pretty much covers everybody. I would also suggest that you listen to that podcast because there are items in there that do overlap. I highlighted the ones that don't in this podcast to make sure that you have all the information that you need. And clearly you have 2 different cover letters, one for academia and one for industry in terms of how you approach that. Very same way that you have a CV for academia and you have a resume for industry. They are not the same thing. The CV certainly will have your publications and whatnot on there. The resume will not, but overall structurally similar. Also, please make sure that you are including your expertise in analysis. So the folks that are in research, not only the research abilities, but also the analysis abilities. So going back to that PAR acronym is something that you want to make sure you're including in your thought process and how you lay out this cover letter. Also, to whom it may concern is not going to fly specifically at this level. So make sure that you're networking to find people who can introduce you to the right hiring manager. Will there be a time that you have to use a address of dear hiring manager? Probably, but I would beg you to make that as minimal as possible. I would beg you to make sure that you're connecting with folks who are alumni, folks who maybe not even alumni, certainly professors that you can reach out to who may have contacts, and certainly people that you can network with to help you to connect. They're willing to do that for you, especially coming out of school. Most people will take an email or a phone call to help you get a connection to the right person. That's an easy transaction for them as long as you make it easy for them. Make it easy for them to respond to you, give them a specific ask, and make sure that you are leading with help. You're always helping first, okay? I hope you enjoyed this podcast. I hope if it was helpful, you will consider 5 stars for us today and also sharing it with other students that you may be part of a program with that can also use this as help. But we'd love it if you'd subscribe and continue to subscribe to our podcast going forward. If you have questions, reach out to us. There is a contact us button on the talentconnect.net webpage. You can certainly reach us there. But we're looking forward to hearing more questions and certainly having more podcasts that address concerns that you may have. Thank you so much.
Stay in the loop at careeringwithcameron.com/talentconnect or check out our website, www.talent-connect.net.